Okay, Thursday, July 16th. This is your weather briefing from Novak Weather and Bring Me the News. We're going to be focusing solely on the severe weather potential for later in the day tomorrow, especially tomorrow night, and then bleeding into Saturday and Saturday evening. Just real quick, what you're looking at now, this is a visible satellite loop over the upper Midwest, and we actually have a beautiful day going on here across much of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Yes, there are a few showers up here in northeastern Minnesota, and we can't rule out a quick shower here over much of central, maybe even portions of southern Minnesota. But in general, just a beautiful afternoon and evening going on with dew points fairly low for this time of the year. And that leads to a very comfortable air mass with temperatures in the 70s and 80s. So again, just an awesome summer day going on. Here are the temperatures. These are the highs basically for today now. 80s, as you can see, over a good chunk of Minnesota from about the I-94 corridor on south. Yes, a little bit cooler up where they've had some rain here in northern Minnesota, where 60s, upper 60s where there are showers, and then 70s. But yeah, most everybody from the Brainerd Lakes area on south, fairly warm, which is actually average for this time of the year in the middle 80s. And I think that's going to be the same case tomorrow. What the big difference is that we're going to be increasing humidity values tomorrow, which means our dew points are going to be on the rise. Here's the jet stream from the NAM computer model guidance for today, and we have a fast northwest flow in our atmosphere that's bringing down pleasant Canadian air into the upper Midwest. But watch what happens as we get into tomorrow. The flow in the upper layers of our atmosphere at about 30 to 35,000 feet, they flatten out, and our winds start to come more from a west and southwesterly direction, which is going to allow heat and humidity to return, especially humidity to return back into the upper Midwest from the Gulf of Mexico. And I expect dew points to start to pool here over Minnesota and South Dakota and Wisconsin as we go through the day tomorrow, which means as we go through the afternoon and evening tomorrow, it's going to get more and more uncomfortable out there as this jet stream continues to surge north of our region. In fact, by Saturday, we have a jet streak that is located over the Dakotas and northern Minnesota, and I'm concerned about the Saturday time frame because on the right rear quad of that jet streak is where storms like to develop, and that would put much of Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin in a favorable area for thunderstorms as we get into not only Friday night, but then through much of Saturday, especially Saturday night. Now, there is a one fly in the ointment here when it comes to severe weather, and it's what we call a cap. And what a cap is when it's just a little bit too warm up above the surface of the earth for it to storm, because air stops rising because it's warmer as you go up in the atmosphere. That is actually considered a stable environment, and that does happen this time of the year in the middle of summer when it just gets so hot out that it's almost too hot to storm. But this is what I mean by a cap. These are the temperatures now at 700 millibars, okay? And whenever you get a 700 millibar temperature above 12 degrees Celsius, you can see here it's at 14 degrees Celsius over much of southern Minnesota by Saturday afternoon. That means it's probably going to be too warm to storm along and south of this line. That would be right about from the I-94 corridor on south. What we need is some cooler air to come into our environment and into our atmosphere at mid-levels, and that actually happens Saturday evening and overnight Saturday. As you can see, the temperatures cool into the 8 to 10 degrees Celsius range at 700 millibars. But until then on Saturday, we may be left with a capped atmosphere. That means just real hot and humid conditions with very few clouds in the sky. In fact, I think Saturday is going to be just an absolutely oppressive day with high temperatures well into the 90s and heat index values in the 105 to 110 range over portions, if not all, of southern and central Minnesota. So be prepared for that. Now, as we look at future radar, this is from the NAM Nest computer model guidance. Here it is for this evening. Again, you can see these showers and some thunderstorms here over northeastern Minnesota, but for the most part, much of Minnesota remains dry. But then watch what happens as we get into tomorrow. Storms begin to develop tomorrow afternoon, especially late afternoon and evening, over portions of central Minnesota. They're scattered, but we can't rule out a quick shower or thunderstorm as we get into the PM hours tomorrow. And then we focus on what's happening in the Dakotas. This is a complex of what looks like going to be severe thunderstorms coming out of the Dakotas and racing east into Minnesota as we get into the midnight hour on Friday and into early Saturday morning. That's likely going to be a squall line, or what we call a mesoconvective system, that moves through much of Minnesota, creating some strong winds and perhaps even some hail. But we're worried about severe weather later Friday night and into Saturday morning. Our atmosphere then stabilizes because of a cap on Saturday afternoon, and then we start to focus on this area of Minnesota as we get into Saturday night. Now, the NamNest computer model guidance isn't going past the 7 p.m. hour on Saturday, but I think if storms develop later in the day Saturday, it will likely be towards or after sunset. One other thing to look at is look at the Cape values. This is the potential energy in our atmosphere. And as we go into tomorrow, look at how our Cape values increase significantly over southern Minnesota. Hence the reason why we can't rule out thunderstorms even as early as late Friday afternoon, late tomorrow afternoon. But then the Cape values just go absurd as we get through Friday night and then into Saturday afternoon and evening. These are the Cape values now for right around dinner time on Saturday. We're talking about values that are in excess of 5,000 JKGs. So those are values that are off the charts. And if we can tap that energy as we get into Saturday evening, that could mean big trouble over much of Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Last map to show you, this is the European computer model guidance showing you the potential for precipitation over the next 3 days. This is through Sunday morning. The European computer model guidance has the bullseye of storm activity right over the heart of Minnesota, basically from the Fargo-Moorhead area, Wahpeton-Breckenridge area of eastern North Dakota on east through the Brainerd Lakes area, a good chunk of the Twin Cities metro, and then into northwestern Wisconsin, and then that would also include northeastern Minnesota and Duluth. Again, we're talking about storms that could dump 3-4 inches of rain in some localized locations. So not only will we have to worry about severe weather, but we may also have to worry about flooding in some certain locations as we get into Saturday night and into early Sunday morning. All right, we'll try to have more for you about this developing severe weather situation and thunderstorm potential for this weekend. We'll try to give you more information on that as we go through tomorrow and Saturday. Take care, everyone.